So over the next decade, we're moving into what many are describing as a new era of inheritance tax, and forecasts indicate that inheritance tax receipts and the number of estates liable are almost set to double. The impact, however, goes beyond the individual client, but is increasingly about how effectively wealth is transferred between generations, and the impact this can then have on advisors, both positively and negatively, depending on the beneficiary experience and whether relationships and ultimately assets are retained. So now, why is the beneficiary conversation becoming more important?
I think ultimately more families are being pulled into the inheritance tax net. So we've got frozen allowances, rising asset values, and ongoing reform, which means that more people are being caught in the inheritance tax net. It's not just for the high net worth individuals anymore. And then I think the other important factor is that a huge wealth transfer is currently underway, where this trillions of wealth is going to be transferred from the baby boomers to the next generation over the next few decades. And that actually poses a risk and an opportunity to advisors. Now, the risk, of course, is when that wealth transfers, the beneficiary will change advisor. So advisors need to be positioning themselves as family advisors and starting those relationships with the beneficiaries and the whole family. But I think there's also an immediate planning opportunity as well, because often when those beneficiaries inherit wealth, they often have their own future inheritance tax exposure.
And where does business relief come into play when speaking to beneficiaries about intergenerational wealth planning?
One of the lesser known benefits of business relief is succession relief, whereby business relief qualifying shares, once eligible, can be passed down through generations without having to restart that 2-year clock. So it makes business relief not just an inheritance tax solution, but a multi-generational planning tool for advisors to talk to clients about.
And how big is the opportunity for advisors, do you think?
We actually conducted some research at the end of last year in 2025 called The New Era of IHT. And what it showed is that over half of advisor client banks are now impacted by inheritance tax. And we know that when we talk about inheritance tax, there's a much wider group of people involved, which allows advisors to extend conversations to spouses, children and grandchildren as well, allowing them to deepen relationships beyond the individual client. And a lot of our advisors actually agree with this sentiment as well. So our research again showed that over 90% of advisors agreed that by talking to the beneficiaries about inheritance tax, it would help them strengthen relationships and in turn retain client assets for the long term. And of course, because business relief and the use of succession relief allows advisors to talk to the whole family as well, this is also another reason why business relief is moving out of the shadows and into a mainstream planning solution.
And what should advisors be thinking about, and what are you seeing in the market at the moment?
The first thing is, of course, are they engaging with beneficiaries? So are they bringing beneficiaries and the whole family into conversations around inheritance tax where appropriate? The second is around client mindset. So, are conversations framed around family legacy and not just percentages lost to tax? And then finally, I think it's investment horizon. So some clients will prioritise diversification and stability, whilst others might prioritise higher returns, for example. And what we're seeing in the market at the moment is these higher returning business relief solutions coming to market to cater for those clients, potentially younger clients with longer term investment horizons who might prioritise a higher return.
Wonderful, thank you.